Welcome to the March 9th, 2017 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happens this week in pop culture. I am your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And I'm Dan Carew.
2 in a row, we
always jumps the gun.
Yeah, I'm kind of the worst.
You know, I think, Lotus, what you should do is you should tell everybody to do it one way and then totally undermine yourself later.
I actually thought you were going to
go in a
different direction. I really thought that what you were going to say is, Lotus, what you should do is shut up. Like, oh no.
And just as a reminder, Pyro will be back next week. Dan is our... is a special guest for this week, so...
Yeah, Pyro will be rehired next week.
Pyro.
Unfired Pyro Jack Frost. But here's our first segment for this week. I wanted to talk about the Switch launch because I kind of wanted to do a reaction to the Reactive Consciousness topic of last week of... the pre-Switch launch. This is the post-Switch launch. And I was debating on whether I should go pick up my system at midnight on Thursday. I guess, technically that's Friday. However, what ended up happening was, I was just like, I'm an adult now, man. I got work in the morning. I have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Do I really want to be going and doing a midnight launch? So... I
called off of work.
So I talked myself into it, and I actually went with Noisy Doll, and we actually had a pretty decent time. There were like 2 girls there, which is pretty funny. It was just like girlfriends of guys who dragged their girls there.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, boy.
And Noisy Doll's my friend, so it was just kind of funny. But we were at Best Buy in near my hometown, which is actually kind of is not the closest one to my apartment now, but when I reserved the Switch, that's where I was living. It was close to my hometown. And it was cool because they were actually really organized. They actually asked us if there was like a pre-order line and a non-pre-order line. Like there was like a scramble line. But also they asked you whether you wanted any additional items if you had pre-ordered the system, if you wanted anything else so they could put it aside for you. So it was good that I did this because they didn't allow you to pre-order a Pro controller, and I was kind of worried about that. I really wanted a Pro controller to go along with the system. So they put that aside for me. I was trying to see whether I could get a Hylian edition or Hylian edition of the game, even though I generally shy away from statues, but... I couldn't, but it was still cool that I went. I got everything I wanted to. I got 1-2 Switch, the Super Bomberman R, Legend of Zelda Special Edition. Comes with a really nice case to keep the system in, which is great.
Nice.
What excites me about it is the map it comes with.
Yeah, it comes with a map and a coin and also soundtrack. Soundtrack in Zelda is crucial. And the case is extremely functional and awesome. It has like a nice strap on it, so and will keep your system very protected, and has storage for a ton of games. Like you could probably fit roughly 30 games in there, no problem.
Jeez. Nice.
It has like slots for it, so it's really like that's a lot of games for a console system. So it was great. I got everything I wanted. So technically, I have 3 controllers for the system. Because the system comes with 2 technically. It comes with the 1 controller that gets split into 2. So it was really cool. I got to play Bomberman with one of my friends. and it's been really neat. The system itself is a technical marvel. I think it's really neat. It's kind of very un-Nintendo like, its design. It's simple and very sleek, like a lot of other Nintendo products, but it feels more industrial, if that makes any sense. So there is
it, as opposed to like, the N64 controller that's like as far from industrial, as you can get.
Well, instead of being really curvy and like all of the stuff is hidden, like screw holes and stuff like that are hidden on most of their things. Like it tries to be, as look as smooth as possible with most of their products. There's a visible heat exhaust port in the top. That was like the first thing that like I was like, whoa, that's unlike them. And I believe that's mostly for the screen, when you're playing it in portable mode, because the screen can probably make that system really hot, and as well as the processor, and it also has like visible screws like in the track where you put the controllers on the side, the Joy-Cons on the side. So it you typically don't see like screws jutting out or very visible on Nintendo products like that. So I thought it was unusual, but it's still cool looking and cool feeling. It has heft to it, but it's really a pleasure to play. I've been playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, and boy, is that game worth it. So this game, I think you can honestly say that they took a lot of direct inspiration from the Elder Scrolls series, in that the openness and also the structure of it, or lack thereof. Well, there is a certain structure to these to those games, even though there is lack of, it's very open. But like the way that you unlock things is very much like a lot of more open world games now. Like in Far Cry or Assassin's Creed, to get the full version of the map, you have to climb a tower.
Okay.
For instance, you have to do the same thing in this game. You have to climb towers in order to unlock the present map. There are encampments of bad guys that you can beat, and you get a reward for doing so. And that happens in the Far Cry games. It's so much fun to climb. I think it's the first Zelda game since Zelda 2 to have a jump button.
I'd heard that was one of the big features, is like the first 3D Zelda to have a jump button.
Yeah, I mean the only other ones were the Game Boy and Game Boy Color ones. I think had jump buttons, but
okay.
You could have the Rock's Feather in those games. Yeah. So, but never has the console mainline Zelda games, except for Zelda 2, had a jump button, and it's a lot of fun to. You can climb almost every wall in the game, which is a lot of fun. And when it rains, you can't climb the walls because you fall down.
That's so cool.
It's just so much fun to get upgrades in the game. Every bad guy that you kill will leave swag behind, and all of the weapons that you use are constantly breaking, so that actually gives you an incentive to fight the bad guys. Like, even if they're low-level bad guys, you have to fight them if you're running out of weapons. So you can just pick up their weapons after you've beaten them.
Now, what kind of weapons break? Because are we
Everything.
talking like inventory weapons, or are we talking like your sword?
Everything breaks. So your bows break, your shields break, and your weapons break. And your melee weapons break. So I don't have the Master Sword.
I'm assuming that's not going to break.
You don't get the Master Sword until the very end of the game, because one of the main mechanics is you have to forage for melee weapons, and even the really good melee weapons break.
I mean that does make sense, but I'm not going to lie, that is like a huge turnoff for me. Like, I hate destructible weapons in games because it just like adds a thing I have to do. Can I beat this dungeon? No, wait, I gotta go get all my shit again.
So, I haven't read a lot of reviews and things like this and reactions, because I just wanted to know that it was good. and
Yeah.
everybody resoundingly has said it's good. So I don't know whether there are traditional dungeons in this game.
I mean, fair enough, but like, I don't like degradable weapons and freaking shields too now apparently, and bows. Like that blows my mind.
Yeah, it's cool though. There are a lot of different things you can do with them. Like, so let's say if your sword is on the verge of breaking, you can throw it at an enemy and it will hit them twice as hard. You can throw it at their face.
Oh, it's kind of like God Hand with the things you can pick up. You could just do one last throw just to insta break your weapon and send the guy flying.
And if you hit them in a certain spot, like their head or something like that, you can also crit them as well. And if you crit a bad guy, they drop all of the stuff in their hands, and they may die as well. But the cool thing is that you can grab their weapon while they right after getting critted. So you can go and grab their weapon and beat them up with it. It's a lot of fun. Certain weapons are better at doing certain things in the game. Like you can actually cut down most of the trees in the game, which is pretty cool. But like if you do it with a weapon that isn't suitable for it, you might be able to chop down one before it breaks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I imagine if you try that with a sword, it's not gonna go very well for you.
Yeah, if you have a club,
do you end up in a situation where you have just a glut of kind of crappy weapons?
Yes, all the time.
Okay.
But it's okay. There's hardly ever a situation in which, unless you haven't been minding your inventory and like stocking up on arrows are extremely useful in the game. You can even regular arrows can straight up win you a battle just by even like the really strong like normal enemies. If they get hit in the face and get critted by an arrow, they get thrown all off. So cool. you can technically I mean you have a whole big stock of you have something like 7 slots starting out for your missile weapons, your bows. So you're not going to run out of bows. That's just not something that's going to happen. You may run out of melee weapons, if you are not paying attention. But there are also different types of melee weapons. There's like, axes and spears and ones that are meant to be thrown, things like that, javelins. Cool. It's so much fun. One
thing I'm curious about is when you do run out of melee weapons, do you just punch dudes, or do you like grapple and try to wrest their weapon out of their hands, or do you just duff them until you kill them and then take their stuff?
So at that point is when you want to run away, and you are, or use your arrows.
Yeah, but when you have nothing, like what's your recourse? Can you find stuff,
arrows.
Or can you just duff a guy in the face?
You cannot punch.
Okay.
So you do not have a melee strike if you have no melee weapons. So at that point you want to run away, and you are much faster than most of the enemies in the game.
Okay.
So you will get away, but that is at that point your own fault, because the vast majority of enemies that you fight will be using melee weapons that you can forage.
Sure.
So if you ran out of melee weapons, it's because you were using the wrong melee weapon to do the thing you were trying to do, and you didn't figure it out while you were trying to do it. So it's not as annoying as it seems. Once again, I hate that too, but you're a big fan of the Dark Cloud games, and that's a big part of Dark Cloud as well.
Yeah, but I hate that part of Dark Cloud. Because you can level up weapons across the entire game, but if it breaks, you are fucked. Like, you shouldn't let it get to that point, but if you do, then I'm sorry. And that just drives me crazy.
The thing about this game is you don't get to attach to any of your weapons.
You're not going to upgrade your weapons in Breath of the Wild, so it's not as big of a deal. Like, in Dark Cloud, that's basically your lifeline. It's like, okay, fine, fight the final boss with your stupid dagger, I guess. It's like, oh no.
And you should be observant enough to see the treasure chests that are lying around and how to open them. And the treasure chests usually have good destructible items in them. Like you can find good swords at the bottom of lakes, let's say.
Sure.
And you can
carried by ladies, I presume.
But it's a watery tart giving you a sword. But yeah, I think this is was a really cool game. Nintendo really modernized their thinking with making this game. They had to have played a lot of other games to get inspiration.
Yeah,
but it still
that's not
has
easy.
it still has that charm though, that only Nintendo games have. Like when you cook, it has like a jingle, like kind of like
Monster Hunter?
It has like and your food hops up and down in the stew pot while it's like, cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like
And then
whip it in the air when you're
whatever.
done and go, so tasty?
Kind of like that. If you make something that, like, if you try making a recipe that doesn't make sense, it will make a food called indiscernible food.
Nice. Now, speaking of recipes,
Wait.
Do you like work at making food, or is it like a Tales of game where there's like a percentage chance of getting it right based on your skill?
Oh no! It's 100% chance that you're gonna make that thing if you know how to make it.
Okay, because I always love it in Tales when it sucks when you mess something up, but my favorite is when it says like you failed at making a sandwich. Man, you're an idiot. Yeah.
But no, this indiscernible food is like really funny because it's just like a bone surrounded by green stuff, and it's also pixelated. Like it's so ugly that they had to pixelate it.
That's pretty good.
And you can eat it, and like Link visibly like doesn't like what he put in his mouth, but you get like 3/4 of a heart for doing so.
It almost reminds me of Metal Gear Solid 3, where like everything in the game, like, can I eat it?
Yes. So you certain like bugs and like parts of enemies are not good for cooking, but are good for making elixirs. So you can make potions with them rather than cook with them.
Cool.
Certain other things are good for crafting later on in the game as well. So there are like 3 different ways to kind of craft in the game. There's like the crafting, there's the cooking, and there's the
Potion making?
Potion making, yeah. So it's so much fun. There's so much to do. There's a ton of side quests. One of the things that you don't want to really fast travel all that much, because there are those wood nymphs that are in the Wind Waker, the Kokiri kids.
Oh, it's been a while, but all right.
Yeah, the guys with the little leaves on their faces.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. They make those clicking sounds like in Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're kind of based off of that god thing, in Japanese mythology. Well, they're hidden all over the overworld in the game, and you find them by seeing something that looks like it's out of place, like a weird rock in the middle of nowhere for no good reason. You pick up the rock, and they're under there.
And like a poof of smoke or something. It's just like,
exactly.
The whole time.
So basically, they're playing hide and seek with you, and they're, whenever you see like a weird, like arrangement of things, chances are it's one of their puzzles that you have to solve.
It's a Skulltula.
Yeah, exactly. And when you do so, you get like this seed, and you can give these seeds to a giant one of those guides who has a pair of maracas, and you are basically filling his maracas up.
Oh, that's funny.
Each seed that you give him will give you more inventory slots.
Nice.
So, and they're all over the place. So you will get more and more inventory slots throughout the game, and there's just so much to do. I mean, whenever you go to a new region, you have to do your tower, and you have to do all the shrines, and the shrines are like mini challenges that you have to accomplish. So
wow, that
really
is so great.
Fantastic game. Yeah, it is completely. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I had so much skepticism that they could pull off something like that back when they first announced this game, and yeah, I'm just so glad everything that I've been hearing about it.
It's the polar opposite of Skyward Sword. in a lot of ways. Skyward Sword had a very kind of linear structure to it.
Right.
It had some really cool like personal moments with some of the characters in the Promised Land. However, there were just some things that didn't work out. The motion controls weren't good.
And that's the entire game.
Yeah, and it's a shame, too, because the story was really good in the game, and what was happening in the game was really good, and the characters were really good. However, the structure wasn't good, and the motion controls weren't good. It's really a shame. There's some really cool boss battles in that game, too. But this game outclasses it. It took some notes from the success of Link Between Worlds and being more open. And it's just I didn't want to stop playing it. Like I had kind of like a fleeting moment of, hey, maybe I don't even want to do much tonight other than play this.
Wow.
But is it better than Link's crossbow training?
But I certainly recommend it to you, Lotus. I think you'll really like it.
I'm sure I will.
Despite your reservations, I hate destructible weapons, but I found that it hasn't been a big issue.
Yeah, it is kind of ironic because I will admit that as much as I hate destructible weapons, I was really digging foraging for materials and making stuff out of them, like in the Tomb Raider reboot.
Which very much
also reminded me
has
of when
the
you
same
said
kind of structure as Tomb Raider. So
yeah, you also reminded me of Tomb Raider when you said that the bow was like the thing to have. So because Tomb Raider, you have a melee weapon and a bunch of guns, but like, dude, the bow, that's where it's at.
Yeah, and in this game you can also get a lot of different outfits too.
I heard about that. Yeah,
it's not just the 3 different tunics. One is good for cold areas,
fire, for water.
Yeah. One's stronger than the other. No, it's not like that at all. In fact, there are many different sets of armor in the game.
Sure.
And it actually takes a little while before you. Even the beginning of the game is like 10 hours. Like I played 10 hours of the game probably so far, and like I've only ever gotten to like Kokiri Village, which is at the very beginning of the game. Like there's just so much to do in the game that you can get distracted with.
Like
now,
I gotta get on these Zelda games, man. Like I still haven't played the Game Boy Color one, or any of the Game Boy ones, or the DS ones, or Skyward Sword, or Link's crossbow training. But like it's just such a.
Have you played Link Between Worlds?
No, I don't have a 3DS.
Oh,
with the other stuff, I have the physical copies of the games. But even though I don't have a DS, Vice had informed me that the DS games are apparently available on the Virtual Console, which is crazy awesome.
Yeah, on the Wii U versions, yeah.
That is so good. Yeah.
So I have played almost all of the Zelda games to completion. Even though I haven't beaten like 4 or 5 of them, that's still a small percentage of the Zelda games out there.
Yeah.
I haven't beaten Zelda 2. I haven't beaten either of the Oracle games, which is the big hole in my.
Yeah, I hear they're among the better Zelda games.
Yeah, I just keep getting distracted every time I try to play them. I haven't beaten either of the DS games, which by a lot of accounts, the first DS game is pretty
one of the weaker
mediocre.
ones.
Yeah, it's probably people's least favorite if they don't call Zelda 2 their least favorite.
Yeah.
That's it.
Have you beaten freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land?
I have it. I have not beat it, but I have it. I also have Tingle's balloon fight.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually brought that over your house last
Yes.
time.
Yep. That was a good one.
Yeah.
In my case, I've perfected Link to the Past, but I've only come really close with the other games. With Ocarina of Time, I mean, I was able to use the bottle, like the item dupe glitch, to get the 4th bottle, but I never did properly get the kill the 10 pose bottle. For Majora's Mask, I got everything, including the Fierce Deity Mask, but I never got the Great Fairy Sword. I just didn't get all the fairies in the Stone Tower Temple. And for Wind Waker, I don't think I perfected the camera gallery. But I think I came damn close, though. I even got the final boss thing, which you basically have to take a picture of the final boss and then just like quit the game
Peace out.
because
Yeah.
there's nowhere to go once you beat the final boss. You like beat the game, so I had to you have to reset to get that in, which is kind of funny, and like beam you out of the dungeon.
I also haven't beaten the multiplayer Zelda games. I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't
any
even
of those.
played those.
I have played all of them, and I do like all of them, but I haven't played any of them to completion. The best one is probably the GameCube one, the Four Swords Adventures. That one's really a great game, despite its technical flaws, like needing 4 Game Boy Advances is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, get out of here.
But the game itself is really great.
Yeah, I have the GBA game and the GameCube game. I do not have Triforce Heroes, although that looks... Correct me if I'm wrong, but that looks like the least Zelda out of all the Zelda games, including the other Four Swords one. This one looks just more like a party game.
It has
like missions.
A lot of crafting and stuff in it. Yeah, it has some elements of Triforce Heroes actually made it into this game.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild.
In Breath of the Wild, yeah. The big problem with it is that 3 players is a weird amount of people, and you cannot have 2 people to play.
Oh, really?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's really stupid. You
So
can either
so
have
it's
1
or 3.
It's 1 or 3, and that's really stupid.
And it's terrible with 1.
Yeah, it's terrible with 1. So you basically have to play it with 3 people. So you basically need to make a schedule with 3 people that want to play it with you.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Or, and it's just not as... if you could physically meet up with 2... and it didn't have the best internet connection either. So, if you would drop out of a lot of games.
Oh, my God.
So the best way to play that game is have 2 friends that you know locally that want to play it with you. And
Sure.
we'll get together with you frequently to play it. Which is, when you're an adult, good luck.
Yeah.
It is fun when you can do it, though.
Yes, it is
Yeah,
a fun
it's a
game,
lot of
but
fun.
its technical limitations are even worse than Four Swords Adventures.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's even possible. But I want to move on from Zelda, even though I have plenty to talk about. I'll continue to talk about it in the CoreCon podcast. But it is worth every bit of time that you put into it. It's so much fun. You don't ever want to stop playing it. There's tons of things to do in it. The Rudos are back, which is pretty cool, like the bird people. It's just it's so so unexpected, but like a huge triumph for Nintendo. They
cool.
somehow took a lot of Western concepts and Western sandbox style games and still made it fun with that Nintendo charm that you love about them.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun to even eat things in your inventory. Like Link just shoves his food in his face when he does it. And if you eat multiple items, he shovels with his hands left and right. It's really
Nice.
funny. There's just a huge attention to detail for really small things like that.
Awesome.
And it's what makes the game a lot of fun.
I'm going to have
It's
to pick it
always
up.
appreciated.
Yeah.
But having said that, I did want to go over Bomberman real quick. I didn't play 1-2 Switch yet, so I'm waiting for people to come over so I can play that. But I will say this about Bomberman. Some people are complaining about it. I don't understand a lot of the complaints, to be honest. So you guys know that I know Bomberman very well. And probably the best Bomberman game ever made was the Saturn game. The Saturn game is fantastic. We've
10
played
players.
it many times.
Yeah.
You could play up to 10 players, but the 10-player mode is very much nerfed. You only have
one stage, the grass
stage, and it's really hard to see, and some of the power-ups aren't there.
I feel like they released that version just so they could sell more multi-taps.
and controllers. Probably the ideal way to play it is honestly with
8-player.
6 or 8. Yeah.
So this game, the one on the Switch is 8-player.
That's pretty bad.
And it's easy to have multiple controllers with the system. So the technical limitations aren't nearly as present. Most people will have at least 3 controllers because the system inherently has 2 already. And a lot of people, most people, I would say, would probably be seeking out a pro controller like I did. So I have 3 controllers already. I didn't really have to buy, many other ones.
Yeah, that's great.
So you could play up to 8 players with this one, and it's you can do it with multiple systems, or you could do it with multiple controllers. The fact that you can play it in kickstand mode, just set it up and just play 2-player Bomberman wherever you are with a friend, and just set it up on a table is fantastic.
Oh, here's a question. For the 8 players, is it 8 different colored Bombermans, or
Yes.
is it like Saturn Bomberman, where you started getting like the Adventure Island guy and like different characters?
So there was some criticism about this game, and I think that's a small criticism, that it doesn't have the Hudson fan service that Saturn Bomberman has.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, that's kind of a shame, but on the other hand, like, it's Konami's now. Like, I don't know if they could. I don't know if they
Konami
could do
doesn't
Hudson.
give a shit about any of the other Hudson properties other than Bomberman.
Hashtag fuck
Yeah.
Konami.
Yeah, well,
right.
this is the first game that I bought from them since Metal Gear Solid 5. So
But isn't this the first game they've like released since Metal
pretty
Gear Solid
much,
5?
yeah. I mean,
So you haven't even broken your streak. They just like haven't done jack shit with video games until they got somebody else's.
But my
Pachinko.
point is that they actually,
Yeah.
went forward in releasing a game that people wanted,
Yeah,
even
that is
after all their
super cool,
bad will. I haven't played the 1-player mode, so I can't comment on that. But I can tell you this, that there was an annoying thing where the camera would pan in the game and kind of like jostles the screen, to follow the action.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually found that there's an option to disable that. So
Yeah, why don't you just have the whole arena like every other Bomberman game ever made?
Exactly. So my major complaint is actually fixed by an option in the options menu.
Okay.
So it's a normal game of Bomberman. I mean, it's fun. There are 8 different colored Bombermen. They all have different personalities, and you can also...
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
As you play the game more and more, you earn tokens, and you can use the tokens to buy accessories.
I was just going to say, like, I didn't even know that was a thing, but I was going to bring up, it would be really cool if you could do something like that, like Bomberman 64, where you could, like, deck yourself out.
Oh, yeah, you could deck yourself out in the game.
That's sweet.
Like I said, I think the major good thing about this game is the platform it's on. It's not a bad Bomberman game. I don't really understand the major criticisms, other than it's a new game and it's not the old one. I mean,
Well, the only criticism I think I had heard was mediocre online connection.
Oh well, I mean, I'm not there for that. Bomberman is so much fun when you have a whole room full of people going,
Yeah,
"What the
it's supposed
fuck?"
to.
Like there's plenty of options. You can disable certain features and enable certain features. I mean, you can have the revenge players on the outside of the
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
or you can disable them. I think the revenge makes it a lot more fun though, because then you can swap, and it also makes it more chaotic. I think it's more fun.
Final Destination only.
Yeah, right. You know what I also liked? I think the Saturn one did the outside of the arena, but I think Bomberman 64 had revenge players where you could just run around with everybody else and just grab people and possess them temporarily. It was the
that's
most
fun.
annoying thing.
I love that. I love Bomberman 64.
Bomberman
64's
64 and
multiplayer is
Bomberman Hero
crazy.
are
The best part is when you could like pick up bombs and throw them. You could pick up players
Yes.
and throw them off too.
Off
It's
the
really
edge.
hard to do, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bomberman 64 and Bomberman Hero are 2 of the games I would rank right below Saturn Bomberman. I think they're really great. And I'm not a huge N64 fan, but those games are great.
64 Bomberman was nuts. Like especially the multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, probably the only limitation, the major limitation with those games is you can only have up to 4 people.
Yep.
Which,
Yeah, but even then, it's the N64. Like, no multi-tap, just 4 controllers, plug them in.
Yep. So, having said that, I'm really having a fun time with it. I definitely recommend. I think that's going to be a rare game as well, because I don't think many were produced. I was looking at the piles of games, and 1-2 Switch, of course, was produced a lot, and there are tons of copies of Zelda.
Yeah.
I do have to say my major criticism of the system itself is that the games taste terrible. They're awful. They really ruined my lunch.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you saw it on Facebook, but like I had seen a video somebody shared which was hilarious. There's an episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 3, where someone posing as Kakyoin just takes a cherry and like rolls it around in his tongue, and he's going like little.
It's really gross.
Yeah, it's like super freaky. But somebody just did that video over and replaced the cherry with a Nintendo Switch game. And he's just like doing that, like
so Dan, do you know what we're referencing?
I have no clue.
Oh, okay. So Nintendo actually came out and said that they made the games taste terrible, so like little kids wouldn't swallow
child
them.
safety.
Oh, that.
So they just have like not Kakyoin, just like
I want to try that actually.
This cartridge
Have you tried? Have you tried tasting it?
Well, I think multiple people on the internet have done it just
I've seen
for
a lot of people like
science.
it taste
Sure,
terrible,
of course.
But they're not. They don't taste terrible because they're poisonous. They taste
Yeah,
terrible because like they made them taste terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to because I'm sure they taste awful, like really bad. But I am curious.
Oh man, that is awesome. That is one awesome thing about Nintendo. Like,
Yeah,
this is the stuff they think about.
you know, this system is like, it's. I don't own one, but when I saw it from day one, I'm like, this is what everyone has been waiting for years. Everyone has
Pretty
wanted
much. The
exactly
Wii U
this.
seems like it was sort of a practice run for the Switch in terms of the portability thing with the tablet controller.
Yeah.
Actually, I was gonna say that I was gonna finish up this with a coda of sorts in saying that this is what I wanted out of the Vita.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So the Vita is a great system. I love it, and I love everything about it, except Sony doesn't know their ass from the hole in the ground.
Oh yeah.
They screw up good things by artificially making it harder for everyone.
There is an HDMI encoder in the Vita.
Yeah.
It exists.
Like they could have easily let you just hook it up to a TV, but instead they wanted to come out with the PlayStation TV, and nobody bought it.
I guess.
Well, that's the thing, though. They we'll do the PS TV instead. Okay, fine, whatever. But not every game is compatible with that in terms of like tilt controls, which easily could be, by the way, because of six-axis.
Easily
but not
could
only
have done?
that, but just real quick. But not only that, but like you said, like zero. Like, how many people even know that the PS TV exists? It's a fucking console, and nobody's even heard of it. Like that. Like, are you kidding me? Like, they're just shooting themselves in the foot, seemingly on purpose.
You know what they could have done? They could have just made it so that your PS3 or PS4 could play every single thing that a Vita could play, like PSP games and all the Vita games,
and they're all
and not even had
anyway.
the PlayStation TV, and just had your Vita be able to play, the vast majority of indie games and PSN games.
I would freaking kill for that. Like, are you kidding me? That'd be amazing. And again, give me some freaking 6-axis support, because games have that, and like the Vita's just like, no, this uses tilt controls.
Yep.
Like, I know that's what 6-axis from the PS3 was invented for. I can't play freaking Uncharted Golden Abyss number 1 because it's listed as incompatible, but aside from the fact that a hack exists that lets you play it, they don't take the freaking 6-axis. Like, so the game's straight up unbeatable, and it doesn't even have to be.
Yep.
And even Silent Hill Book of Memories, it's very touch control centric, and while the PS TV allows for compensation for that by pushing in the thumbsticks, I mean, again, this is my fault because Book of Memories was not designed to be used on the PS TV. But, like, it's such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, they could have easily allowed you to play all these games on one of their consoles instead of inventing that little thing to do it. I mean, they've shown that they're compatible, right? They have cross-compatible games. A lot of the games don't need all that much different coding to work on the Vita versus either of the two systems, or either of the two consoles, the PS3 and the PS4. Like, a lot of indie developers can make Vita versions of their games very easily.
Yeah, that's a lot of limited run games.
Just give me Nintendo's like sense of design and Sony's like business development
infrastructure.
Team.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh, by the way, one other thing that pisses me off is the HDCP protection regarding recording. It's not so terrible to navigate, but you have to.
Ridiculous.
But here's what pisses me off about it. It's not just the fact that it exists, because like, if they're going to be a hard ass, that's one thing. But what really pisses me off is that the PS4 had it, but then they later patched it out and advertised sharing as like a big feature of the PS4.
Yep.
And then they never patched it out on the PS3 or the PS TV. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yep.
With the
they
PS3,
invented
you
HDCP, I think, or they were a co-inventor.
Yes, they did.
To be dicks. But like with the PS3, you can just use component cables instead of HDMI and problem solved. PS TV, you can work around it, but you got to know how to do it. And it's just like, if the PS4 is so cool precisely because of its lack of HDCP, according to you, the creators, then why the hell are you still insisting on being dicks with your other systems?
It's kind of genius if you think about it.
Why did you make your system incompatible with your TV that I have?
Yeah.
Like, you've been following Corrective Consciousness.
Yeah. And not only that, again, with the PS TV not being compatible with a lot of Vita games, it just pisses me off that with the hack that people have online, you can circumvent this,
the email
which shows me that some of these, I mean, again, Uncharted Golden Abyss, I cannot beat. It can't be done. But what pisses me off is that some games that were made to be blacklisted from the PS TV didn't have to be. Like, I'm holding your cartridge, I'm putting it in your system specifically designed to accept this cartridge. I can beat the game, and you're choosing not to let me. Like, what is wrong with you?
I really think this is a Sony of America actually knows what's going on, and Sony of Japan maybe less so, because
That
they're
seems to be the case
a lot
with
like
Nintendo
Sega
as well.
They're a lot like Sega in that regard. They're just like Sony of Japan has all of this like really bad corporate infrastructure from the 80s when stuff worked and they were making so much money it didn't matter.
Right.
Even Nintendo, like for Let's Players, for like Mario games or something, Nintendo is so up its ass with like flagging your content, but I think it's specifically Nintendo of Japan. Like, I don't know if Nintendo of America really cares.
Yeah. But if you think about like the PlayStation Network or like trophies or kind of all that they've done, it's been, I think, mostly Sony of America actually pushing for that. Yeah, just and even like when they were announcing the PlayStation 4 and it launched in the US first, and they made such a big deal of like, you can share your games, and this is not the Xbox One.
Did you see that video? Did you see the video they did for that? Like the Super Troll video?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. How to share games with your friends.
At E3,
it was the most trolling video. This was the E3 where Microsoft basically shit the bed.
Shat the bed, yeah.
And the thing is,
that was them actually getting it. That was Sony getting it.
Yes.
For once.
But the thing is, though, like, Sony's press conference wasn't even creative. Like, it happened to go after Microsoft. So basically their whole press conference was like, you saw Microsoft's conference, right? Well, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, when the guy said you can... Because there was a big issue of, like, will used games be compatible with the system? Because of the Xbox One, that was still a question at the time. Yes. And the Sony guy was like, oh, you can play used games. And he got a standing ovation.
Yeah.
Like, they cut him off. Like, he got applauded the crazy. So Sony later released a video on YouTube that was, like, 20 seconds long. And it was the biggest, like... I haven't seen a dick move like this since, like... the TV commercials for like Nintendo versus Sega, where they're just sniping each other every day. Yeah, they're just mean-spirited. Like, it wasn't even like friendly competition. Their companies are being dicks to each other. Like, Sony had a video called "How You Can Play Games," like how your friends can play games on their PS4.
And he just hands them it.
It shows the Japanese Sony CEO. Like, taking a game and handing it to the American Sony CEO, and the American CEO was like, "Thank you," and that was the whole video. I was like, "Whoa, shots fired!" Like, it was hilarious.
I do love this discussion, but we should for sure get onto another one. But I want to quickly say that the only other game that I really want for the system is called Snipper Clips, which is the It is supposed to be a co-op puzzle game like that's taking place in a notebook. It looks really cute, and it will be a lot of fun with the 2-controller gimmick that the Switch has. So I definitely do want to play that. That's the only eShop game at this venture that is worth purchasing, I think. specifically for the Wii, the Switch. So I will report back on that. But so far, so good. I mean, the 2 games that I have played for the system have been a fun experience. I've really enjoyed myself.
Awesome.
So I think that I hope that this system is popular enough. That they also, like, I was just marveling at playing a console Zelda game, like in my bed.
Cool.
It was fantastic.
Well, not only that, but honestly, I mentioned this, I don't even know how long ago on the Corrective Consciousness podcast, but like also just a console Zelda game. Because, I mean, we got Wind Waker on the Wii U.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Twilight Princess as well, but like Nintendo hasn't had like
since Skyward Sword.
Yeah, like GameCube had like the
Twilight
Four
Princess.
Swords and Twilight Princess. The Wii
And Wind
also
Waker.
had Twilight Princess. That was corny. But then
And
the
Wind
GameCube
Waker.
also had Wind Waker. And yeah, but the Wii got Skyward Sword. The Wii U doesn't have a Zelda game to call its own. It has 2 Zelda games, but they're from like 7 years prior. So like Nintendo kind of skipped the generation. It got Breath of the Wild, but like even though Twilight Princess is on the
People
GameCube,
are buying the
it was
Switch version. They're
that's
not
the
buying
thing.
Wii
Yeah,
U
even
version.
though Twilight Princess was on the GameCube, it was like a timed exclusive for the Wii first. But like, I think the Breath of the Wild was simultaneously released, but it's like I mean I'm probably gonna pick up the Wii U version, but
same
it's a Switch game though. It is.
I mean, everything about it. I mean, it's just so much fun to play on the Switch. Like for instance, my roommate had a meeting downstairs with one of his coworkers, and I just grabbed it out of the system, out of the cradle, and it it just switched modes immediately.
That's really cool, actually.
And I walked upstairs and I played it, and then when it was when his thing was done, I put it back in the cradle, and it even turns your TV on and switches the AV
man.
mode. So like
That's fantastic.
I just dropped it in the cradle, and boom,
That's a
the
little
game was on
thing,
my
but
system.
that's
On my TV.
that's a little thing, but that's kind of a big deal.
It's just so cool, so seamless, wonderful design that makes Nintendo feel a lot like Apple in a lot of ways, but without all the bullshit of Apple. I don't think Nintendo has a lot of bullshit. They have some bad moves and some bad stuff. Like their online stuff isn't that great, but in terms of like they try to eliminate bullshit if they can most of the time. And
Actually,
it's
speaking
great.
of online bullshit, didn't they like bring friend codes back?
Yeah, but it's not.
Remember that thing that sucked? Here you go.
I mean,
This was their chance.
This is a Nintendo system, so I don't expect to play games online. I'm just gonna.
No,
go
I mean
out and say
that's
that.
fair enough, but that's such a dumbass thing to do. Like, want to play online? Let's just make it a pain in the ass. Remember the old Nintendo games where they didn't have save files on the battery, so you had to type in like a 30-digit password and how much that sucked? Let's do that again. Although this is something I personally don't care about, but a lot of other people do. I think they're phasing out the Miiverse.
No, it doesn't have the Miiverse, but Miis are still in there. In fact, you can transfer your Mii from the Wii U and from the 3DS. Like if you have an Amiibo or an Amiibo, you can.
Oh yeah, you
can
can still use Amiibos too. I think for like especially Breath of the Wild.
Oh sure, yeah, and the Amiibos have some pretty cool functionality. They give you melee weapons, most of them.
Sure.
But having said that, I do think we should move on to our other topic this week. Since Dan is here with us for another episode, he's really into a lot of really cool offbeat games. And I really wanted you to share some more of that with the podcast, since you mainly talked about the one game that you're a fan of on the other podcast.
Yeah, Factorio.
Yeah, you really love Factorio, and I thought maybe you could showcase some other titles just to let our audience know of some things that you know quite a bit about.
Sure.
Since you're here with us.
Yeah. So Factorio is an awesome game. Not super kind of absurd, but I am a big fan of the absurd when it comes to games.
Me too.
I actually picked up this from itch.io. I don't know if you've bought anything from Itch, but it's kind of like Humble or GOG, but for like really even slightly more obscure games. It's kind of like Bandcamp in a sense when it comes to music, but for games.
Just people making small stuff.
Yeah.
Small offbeat stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like recently they did this big fundraiser that was helping to support, I think, Planned Parenthood and the ACLU, and you'd pay $20 and get like 140 games, and you get some that are complete garbage and some that are really amazing. It's kind of like when you used to buy those like those shareware like floppy disks or whatever, and you'd get a bunch of weird games, and sometimes there was a cool one on there. I love that style of thing, and I was a little sad that it had died out when, you'd go to like CompUSA or something. I don't know, one of these weird computer stores. You'd buy a disc that says like 700 games, and
I used to have like an 80 game like DOS shareware thing.
Yeah, and most of them are terrible, and occasionally one is good. And I love like digging through like virtual record crates. When you're like going to a record store and you're looking for some rare record, and the same thing happens with video games at game conferences when you're looking for a rare game. But except for this is more like you just have no idea what you're looking for, and then you find something that's gold. And so I love doing that. And
that's so cool.
And one of the games that got really big, really big in the scope of weird games, is this game called Desert Golfing.
I love it.
Yeah, and I
love postmodern games. I really love postmodern games, and it's the poster child for this postmodern weird bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing like with Oh Dear on the Tuesday podcast.
Exactly.
Like Oh Dear is the psychedelic like why was this made? Oh God, this is a fever dream. But oh my God, there's nothing else like it. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Desert Golf is like that.
So Desert Golfing is kind of like that. It's for people who don't know, it's a mobile game, and all you do is it's a 2D side-scrolling golfing game that takes place in the desert, and you pull back your finger on the screen, and as far back as you pull is how much, force is applied to the golf ball, and the angle that you pull back is kind of the angle that the golf ball goes in, and you want to get into a hole, and there's only one number that's tracked, and that's how many times you've tried to, or how many times you've hit the ball, and then I guess the other number is how many holes you have made. Every hole is a unique screen, and so for me, so far I've played, I don't know, like 1,400 holes of it, which takes a long time, and every hole is unique, and I've probably hit the ball like 4,000 times or something. But you just hit it. There's only one score. It's how many times you've hit the ball, and it always goes up, and you just keep going. And I don't know, I've seen pictures online where people have played like 30,000 holes, and you just keep going. And that's it.
I love that it. I think the part that makes it kind of so eerie is that, like, first of all, there's no music. There's only like
just the sound
like
of hitting the ball.
Hitting the ball, like ball and hitting the sand. Also, like when you get it in the hole rises up and goes. It makes kind of like a very like video gamey sound.
Yeah.
And it like rises up, like it kind of seems like insidious in one way or another. I don't know what it is about it, but it feels creepy almost while you're playing it.
And minor spoiler, but occasionally you'll see like a cactus, maybe after like 300 holes.
What is it?
Like a cactus.
Oh. Wow.
After you get 100 holes, it's like, hey, tweet this out. You got 100 holes. And then you're like, okay, cool. Is that the end? But no, it just keeps going forever. So that's a great game. And it really, I was wondering, okay, what other games do these people make? And it's a tiny game studio called Captain Games. They've got, I don't know, maybe 8 or so games on iOS and on the Play Store. Some other ones they have that I've played, one is called So Long Oregon, and the other one is No Brakes Valet. So Long Oregon is kind of a riff off the Oregon Trail, except you need to so you're going from Oregon to El Dorado. And it's a side-scrolling game. You're moving from right to left, and the wagon just moves on its own, and it's more live action, and you can either tilt forward or backward. And there's mountains in the way, and you have to like try to land. So like your cart will just run up these mountains, and you need to land flat. And your cart will like bounce if it lands with too much force, and if it lands upside down, then somebody gets like dysentery or like loses an arm. And the art style is exactly like Oregon Trail. You'll like blow through towns, and if you are lucky enough, you might be able to like get some items on your way through. Sometimes you'll pass like a Native American encampment, and they'll like maybe put a curse on you that'll make your cart like bounce around like crazy. And then there's one mode called like Realistic Oregon Trail, and it's the same exact game except there's like 20 other carts on the track, and it's a race to get to the other side.
It's a race, very realistic.
There's like bears and stuff that you can shoot as you're going by. It is incredible. It hasn't been updated in a while, so there's a few bugs now that it's like iOS 9 or iOS 10. Maybe the play version is better. But you can still play it, and it's great.
That is really great.
I love the concept. Yeah. And then the other game that I mentioned, No Brakes Valet. This is a game where you have to park cars.
With no brakes.
So
all right, I'm down.
So most of the cars actually do have a brake. So there's 3 buttons on screen.
That's a lie then.
Yeah. There's a left turn, a right turn, and a brake. However, there's no gas. So you just you zoom into this parking lot, and you have to like slow down and like spin in circles and stuff until you can slow into
until you
a
gently
spot.
Stop.
Right. But if you overshoot it, that's too bad, and if you undershoot it, too bad. And you might just bash into other cars because you just keep getting more cars. There's like 20 cars per level and maybe 25 parking slots. It's a Canadian game, and so there's also like the Prime Minister, and you have to park him in the VIP spot. And if you do, it's like $20, and if you don't, you lose money. If you park in the handicapped spot, you lose like $5. It's hilarious. Within that game, there's a sequel called Too Fast to.
Wait, it's the sequels contained in the same game.
Yeah. It's like Too Fast to Valet or something like that. And
nice.
You have to like park limousines. And then
have you ever played
called,
not GTA 5?
Tokyo Valet.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah. It's Ontario Drift. and you have to park like farm trucks, and there's like chickens and stuff bouncing around. Oh my god. And it's a top-down game, just kind of 8-bit-ish. Well, not 8-bit, but kind of retro graphics.
That's amazing.
Janky as heck. There's a multiplayer mode on it, so you and a friend sharing the same phone can play, where they're on one half of the phone, you're on the other half, and you like crash into each other.
Nice.
Highly recommended. Weird games. So Long Oregon has like 37 reviews.
So Dan,
yes,
have you played not GTA 5? That's another one you should play.
Not GTA 5. This sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, it's on Steam. It's called Not GTA 5.
That's fantastic.
I don't know whether it's still sold on there or whether they told them to take it down, but it's fantastic. It's like it's basically like a weird version of Snake. It looks like some guy made it like with paper, and it's really funny and avant-garde, and you would love it.
Yes.
And he's just like he is constantly taunting Rockstar in like the comments, like, you motherfuckers want to take me down. You will never take down not GTA 5 because it's not GTA 5. It's right in the name. It's really funny.
Oh, speaking of one thing that Rockstar did take down, unfortunately, did you hear about that hilarious mod for GTA 5 where it replaces your grenades with Samsung Galaxy Note S7?
Yes.
I love how stupid that is, and it's like hilarious. And Rockstar's like, no, we better not. And I'm like, oh.
So Dan, have you heard about how they released Frog Fractions 2?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I haven't played it yet, though.
Neither have we, but I'm
get on
sure we're gonna let's play that one. But
gotta do one first.
I'm saving myself for that one.
Same.
But yeah, I mean, the whole story leading up to the release of that game is a funny thing to read about in itself.
We did bring that up on a previous Corrective Consciousness, but definitely look it up because it's bigger and deeper than you'd think in terms of announcing the release of a freaking goofy indie game.
The only alternate reality campaign that was more involved, or even comes close to being as involved. This was definitely the one that's been most involved. But
yeah,
the Binding of Isaac.
That one also was pretty out there.
Alternate reality game going on was also really intricate. But this one takes the cake because the creator of the game was constantly taunting the people that wanted to find the game. Like, he successfully kickstarted the game and was basically like, no, F you, the game's not coming out. And people were like, no, it's coming out. And he's like, no, I'm canceling it. But
and they're like, no, we know you.
Basically kept on coming out with like tweets about it. You'll never solve this puzzle about it not coming out. And he was just constantly taunting people, and he would keep constantly putting it out. And he's just like, and then the best part about it is that people found it inside some other game.
Yep.
That's called Glittermitten Grove on Steam. The best part is once you unlock Frog Fractions 2 and you play through the whole thing, in the credits it says Frog Fractions 3. So
so 2
he
never
literally
did
release Frog Fractions 2.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's so good. It's the biggest shit post. It's so good.
Oh, wow. I gotta give it to my friend Sean, who I convinced to play Frog Fractions 1 with no background, and he trooped through it, and he messaged me an hour or two later, and he's like, yeah, so that happened.
Yeah, 1 is kind of the best game ever made.
You sell porn to run a country.
I played that game naturally. I did not know that you could swim. The
beauty of it is finding it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Did you ever try pressing down? Oh.
Yep.
Number of fruits,
I was like, this is gonna take me forever. There's no way I'm going to get enough Zorkmids to keep
going. Bringing back Zorkmids.
Your dignity is up.
and lo and behold, I'm just fucking around while I'm supposed to be doing other stuff.
And that's the idea.
Yeah. So good, but that was after an hour of it actively wasting my time.
Of you're just buying and removing the laser mode or whatever. The guided.
Yeah, one of the upgrades is removing an upgrade, which is hilarious.
Yeah, and every time you remove it, you can rebuy it, and it has a different description every time.
Oh man, I really want an MP3 of that boxing history.
The boring history. Yeah,
it's so good.
As you're swimming through that maze and just being bored, and you hear this.
The only thing that I think of that compares to that is the talk radio that's in Job Simulator.
Oh yeah,
it's so good. The talk radio that's in that game is so inane.
Cars,
and so dumb.
They have there's the thing on the top of the car. It's
the roof. The roof.
The ceiling roof thing. Yeah.
It's car talk, but only if you're not listening to it.
Right.
It's like inane talk radio, but if you actually listen to it, it's like, oh my god, what am I listening to?
Yes. From two people who have never experienced a car.
Yeah, it's clearly made by robots who think this is an interpretation of what talk radio is.
Yeah.
After hearing about what talk radio is.
Yeah, so good.
But yeah, I mean, I love games like this. Like, I'm sure you're also into the various simulator games like Goat Simulator and Surgeon Simulator and all those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Goat is pretty hilarious.
Have you had a chance to play Accounting, by the way?
No, I haven't played that one yet. Accounting Simulator?
It's just called Accounting. It's made by the guys who did Rick and Morty. It is incredible. It is VR within VR within VR, and it just gets absurd. Strongly recommended.
I need to play this.
Yes, it is hilarious.
Well, I think that's all we have time for this week. Please remember to subscribe to Corrective Consciousness on YouTube and our Soundcloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs up, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesday on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast about our lives in pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as VyseTheBold, VyseTheBold, on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, and Twitter. And I also just read that. Now, Lotus, what would you like to plug?
Well, you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. Hit me up via the messaging system there or the comment section if you'd like. Also, follow me on Twitter at Lotus Prince, all one word.
Cool.
And Dan, make a quick plug for yourself.
Sure, yeah. So you can find me on PSN, on Xbox, on Steam, all as Denalin, Denalin. If you play Factorio, seriously hit me up. Twitter is probably a good place to do that. Twitter.com/Dan Carew.
And you are a pretty active Age of Empires 2 player.
Oh my god, Age of Empires 2, yes. And Age 3. I'll still boot up 3 every so often. Yeah.
But 2 is being more updated than 3, is it?
Oh my god, yeah. They came out with a 4th expansion recently. Insane.
So, yeah. We'll talk about that some other time for sure. But, yeah, definitely hit us up. And thank you for joining us once again. We'll catch you next Tuesday for the regular CoreCon podcast. Catch you later, everyone.
Until next time, everyone.
See ya.